The forest was wrong that night. Not silent. Silence is something you can hear. This was stillness, a dead stillness, like the trees themselves were holding their breath. Somewhere behind the black pines, she was waiting. Moonlight spilled in fractured silver between the twisted branches, pulling on soil that felt soft underfoot, too soft as though it had swallowed more than its share of footsteps. Somewhere far off, an owl cried, and then stopped mid-call as if it choked off by some unseen hand. And then came the sound, a creak, wooden, uneven, like a porch wing swaying in the wind. Only there was no wind. It grew louder, thump, thump, scratch, something heavy, something alive. Then you saw it. A hood, standing high on spindly yellow legs, claws scraping the herb as the entire structure turned toward you. The windows blinked, the door seemed to breathe. And in the doorway she appeared, bent back, hair like tangled grey ropes, eyes pale and clothed yet sharp enough to pierce through skin and bone, her mouth twisted in something between a grin and a snarl. You have just met Baba Yaga, the most feared and strangely respected witch in Slavic folklore. Before you walk her into the shadows, make sure you subscribe to Scarydrac, where the old paths are walked, the old stories are told, and the things that watch from the dark are given their voice. Because tonight, the truth about Baba Yaga is waiting for you. Baba Yaga is not the witch of Western fairy tales. She wears no pointed hat, no flowing cloak sewn with stars. Her magic is older, drawn from a place deeper than spell, books, and polished charms. She is a paradox, a grandmother, and a predator, a guide and a destroyer. Those who meet her may walk away with wisdom, or never walk away at all. Her name alone carries a shiver in the Slavic tongue. Baba, grandmother, a title that can be affectionate or mocking. Yaga, a darker word, its meaning shifting through centuries. Some say it means pain or horror. Others trace it to words for disease or wicked spirit. But there are whispers that it's older than language itself, a fragment of an ancient goddess, stripped of her altar but never of her power. Her appearance is the stuff of both nightmare and strange fascination. She is impossibly thin, her limbs wiry and sharp, yet packed with the strength of a storm. Her skin, yellow and creased, clings to her bones like parchment. Her nose, long and hooked, nearly scrapes the ceiling when she lies down. Iron teeth gleam in her mouth, made for grinding more than bread. Her hair hangs in a grey, tangled mane, heavy with the smell of smoke and earth, as though the forest itself wove it. And her movements, they are wrong, too fast, too slow, never quite matching the rhythm of her breath. She does not walk the way people walk. She glides, sometimes in her strange vessel, a massive mortar which the propels with a pestle, as though rowing a boat across unseen water. Behind her she sweeps away her tracks with a birch broom, erasing the proof she was ever there. This is Baba Yaga's nature. She belongs to no single realm. She is the threshold, the space between the living and the dead, the damned and the wild. When people come to her, and they do, though it is always a gamble, they do not find a warm heart and a soft bed. They find trials. Baba Yaga's hospitality is a blade that cuts both ways. She might feed you, clothe you, even grant you a gift. Or she might grind your bones for her dinner. The choice, as far as anyone can tell, depends on her mood. or some hidden measure only she understands. She is not evil in the way a demon is evil. She is nature. Nature feeds you, but it will also starve you. It shelters you in the forest, but sends the wolf to your door. It is beautiful and it is merciless. And just like nature, Baba Yaga cannot be fully controlled. She bows to no master, mortal or divine. She can help a lost traveler find their way, or lead them deeper into the wild until they vanish forever. Those who seek her to do so with trembling hands and heavy hearts. Some came for answers to questions no priest or wise man can solve. Some beg for her healing touch to cure only she can brew. Others simply want to test their courage, to see if they can look into those pale eyes and live to tell the tale. Few return unchanged. Some speak of the knowledge she gave them, knowledge that saved their lives. Others say she cursed them, their luck soaring from that day onward. And there are those who never speak of her at all, not out of fear, but because the memory of her is too strange, too heavy to put into words. Baba Yaga stands in the space between kindness and cruelty, between the living forest and the grave. She is the witch between worlds, and crossing her path is never an accident, and it's up to her whether you regret accepting it. The first sign of Baba Yaga's home is not its sight, but its sound. A slow, deliberate thump, followed by a scraping claw. Then again, thump, scrape. A rhythm that doesn't belong to the forest, yet somehow pulls it through it like a second heartbeat. And then, through the shadow, it emerges. A hood, squat, crooked, its timbers darkened with age and smoke. The roof is moss covered, the windows small and deep set, like the eyes of something that has learned to watch before it strikes. But the most unsettling thing is not the hood itself, it's what holds it aloft. Two massive chicken legs, scaled and yellow, ending in talons the size of skids, lift and lower the house with unnerving grace. The legs flex, scrape the earth, and turn the structure in a slow circle as though sniffing the air. When it stops, the hood settles with a shudder, and the ground itself seems to sigh with relief. This strange dwelling is no idle trick of magic. In Slavic folklore, the chicken-legged hut is as famous as Baba Yaga herself. Some say the legs allow her to escape unwanted guests. The house can simply walk away, disappearing into the thickest part of the forest where no human foot has tread. Others say the movement is a guard patrol, the hood pacing an endless watch of trespassers. The hood threshold is not easily crossed. Its door will not open unless a visitor knows the right words, the ancient command. Little hood, turn your back to the forest and your face to me. Only then will the building return, legs bending with a sickening creak, to face the supplicant. But the hood's defenses do not end there. Around it stands a fence not of wood, but of human bones. Skulls crown the posts, their hollow eyes filled with a pale, witch light that flickers in the dark. The gate is locked by a jawbone, and some say it will only open when feed the teeth of the foolish who dare approach without invitation. It is a place both horror and symbolism. Scholars believe the chicken legs are no accident. They link back to ancient burial traditional, where the dead were placed in small houses on tilts to keep them above the earth. These houses were said to stand between worlds, not quite of the living, not yet of the dead. Baba Yaga's hut is a moving grave, a dwelling for one who exists in the same liminal space. Inside, The air is thick with smoke from a fire that never goes out. Herbs hung from the rafters, their leaves crackling in the heat. Strange jars and bottles line the shelves, some containing liquids of shifting colors, others holding things better left unspoken. The walls are hung with tools for grinding, cutting, steering. The mortar and pestle, her strange mode of travel, often rest in the corner. But perhaps the most unsettling part is how the inside of the hood seems wrong. Some visitors report that the space feels far larger than it should be, stretching into corridors that should not fit with its crooked frame. Others claim that the windows do not show the same forest outside, but instead strange, impossible landscapes. The hood is alive, not merely animated but aware. It creaks in response to Baba Yaga's voice, shifts when she is displeased, and sometimes, if you stand too close, the legs will lift without warning, and you will find yourself suddenly beneath the crushing weight of a predator that wears a house of skin. To step into Baba Yaga's hood is to cross a boundary that few return from. And even if you leave, the memory of those talons scraping the earth will follow you for the rest of your days. Baba Yaga's power does not come from a dusty grimoire or the teachings of another. It seeps from her like mist from the earth, ancient, instinctive, and bound to the forces that existed long before humankind learned to speak. She is the forest voice, the rustle of leaves when there is no wind, the eyes glinting in the undergrowth when you know you are alone. Animals of the deep woods heed her will. Wolves pass silently at her side, their eyes glowing like ambers. Owls serve as her sentries, their silent wings carrying them to the places no human will dare to go. Even the smallest creatures, spiders waving in the corners of her hood, insects burrowing in the soil, are part of her network of watchers. Nothing moves through her domain without her knowing. And it is not just the living that answer her call. The dead too bend to her voice. She can summon the shades of ancestors, coaxing them from their swallow graves or dragging them from the mist between the worlds. Some she sends as messengers, others as hunters. Their loyalty is not to the living who once loved them, but to her, the one who can bind them with a word. Her magic is visceral, earthy and terrifying. She is a master of herbalism, but her remedies are not gentle. A draught from her cauldron may heal a sickness overnight, or leave the drinker blind, speechless, or asleep until the end of their days. She brews storms in bowls of blackening iron, steers lightning into the air with the sweep of her broom. Most feared of all is her gift for shape-shifting. Baba Yaga can become a black bird and vanish into the branches, a fox slinking between the roots, a shadow sliding across the snow without leaving prints. She can even take on the faces of the dead, an old lover, a lost child, to lure the foolish deeper into her realm. And yet, her powers are not used without purpose. Even her cruelties serve a test. Those who come to her most often complete impossible tasks, spinning an entire field worth of flax in one night, separating a pile of poppy seeds from grains of sand, or fetching water from a well guarded by spirits of fire. Her magic ensures these tasks are almost certain to fail, unless the supplicant earns her aid. To gain that aid is to court danger. She may offer a gift, a thread that never tangles, a school lantern that burns with ghostly light, a blessing for safe passage. But these gifts often carry unseen weight. The lantern might burn a path through the woods, or draw predators to it. The blessing might shield you from one danger, only to mark you for another. Some believe Baba Yaga's powers come from a pact with the forces of death itself. Others whisper she was once a goddess of the underworld, cast down when newer gods took the sky and the fields. If that is true, then her abilities are not merely magic, they are remnants of divinity. She can open gates that should remain closed. She can close gates that should never have been opened. And perhaps most unsettling of all, Baba Yaga cannot be killed by mortal means. Slain in one form, she will return in another, carried back on the legs of her walking hood, or in the wings of a crow. Her essence is rooted not in her body, but in the soil, the trees, and the bones of the earth itself. When you enter her forest, you enter her body, and when you breathe her air, you are breathing in her power. Legends of Baba Yaga are as old as the forests themselves, but a few tales burn brighter or darker than the rest. They are not simply stories, they are warnings. One of the most famous is the tale of Vasilisa, the Beautiful. Vasilisa was a young girl, gentle but unwielding, who carried with her a strange gift, a small wooden doll given to her by her dying mother. The doll, when fed and cared for, would give her guidance. When Vasilisa's father remarried, her stepmother and stepsisters were cruel beyond measure. One night they switch off every light in the house and send her into the deep forest to fetch a flame from Baba Yaga. The forest swallowed her, branches clothed her dress, unseen creatures watched from the undergrowth, and the moon hid itself behind clouds. But the doll whispered directions, and soon Vasilisa reached the fence of bones. Skulls with glowing eyes stared at her as she spoke the words, "Little hood, turn your back to the forest and your face to me." The hood obeyed, and Baba Yaga herself emerged, her voice a creaking laugh. Vasilisa was told she could have the fire if she completed impossible tasks. She was ordered to sort a heap of poppy seeds from grain of dirt before dawn, and prepare a feast from scraps and bones. Each time she disappeared, the doll worked in secret, completing the task for her. Baba Yaga, suspicious, demanded to know the source of her help. When Vasilisa spoke of her mother's blessing, Baba Yaga shuddered. She could not bear the presence of such purity. She thrust the school lantern into girl's hands and sent her away. When Vasilisa returned home, the school's eye flared with pale fire, and her stepmother and stepsisters were burned to ash where they stood. Some say Baba Yaga planned this all along. Others believe she was merely testing the girl's spirit, punishing those who sent her unprepared into the dark. Another tale tells of Ivan the Fool, a simple boy who stumbled to Baba Yaga's forest after boasting that he feared nothing. The hood found him first, pacing in slow circles until the boy dared to speak the words. Baba Yaga emerged, grinding with iron teeth, and offered him a choice: 3 riddles or 3 nights of service. Ivan, thinking himself clever, chose the riddles. The first was a question about the path to a place where no living man has walked before. Ivan guessed it wrongly, and the hood talon scraped the earth in hunger. The second was a question about the color of the wind. Ivan answered blue, and Baba Yaga laughed until the trees shook. The third was simple: "What is your fear?" But Ivan, too proud, claimed again that he feared nothing. That night, as he slept, he dreamed of his own grave, and waked to find the ground already dug beside him. The hood stood over him, its legs bent like a bird ready to strike. Some say he escaped by tricking her, throwing a handful of salt into her eyes before running until dawn. Others say he still serves her, wandering the forest as one of her shadow eye hunter. These stories reveal a pattern. Baba Yaga does not simply kill or spare at random. She tests. She measures a visitor's wit, courage, and respect for the forces they do not understand. To the wise, she can be a strange sort of guide, cruel but truthful. To the foolish, she is a moe that swallows without leaving a trace. Around the dark heart of her hood, fate is decided not by chance, but by measure of the soul before her. Not all tales of Baba Yaga belong to the dusty pages of folklore. Some live in hushed voices, traded between villagers, seekers, and those who claim to have wandered too far into the wrong forest at the wrong hour. They begin with small things, subtle, easy to dismiss, a sudden stillness in the woods, where even the wind seemed to be holding its breath. The faint, rhythmic sound of thump, scrape, just at the edge of hearing, a whiff of smoke that smells not of pine, but something darker, like burned hair and damp earth. Hunters tell stories of a chicken talon, massive and yellow, retreating behind the trees, only to vanish when they look again. Children speak of dreams in which an odd woman peers through their bedroom window, her iron teeth catching the moonlight, and in the morning their window frames bear 3 deep scratches as it did from a claw. One of the most enduring legends comes from a logging crew in the Ural Mountains. They claim they stumble upon a clearing with a strange, unnatural circle pressed into the snow, as though a massive round object has stood there for years before walking away. In the center they found a single human tooth resting on a blackened patch of ice. The men left in silence, abandoning their tools. Not one returned to collect them. Then there's the story from a small Belarusian village in the 19th century. A young woman named Oksana vanished after venturing into the forest to gather mushrooms. For 3 nights the villagers searched, calling her name. On the 4th night she returned, barefoot, her dress torn, clutching a wooden spoon. She refused to speak of where she had been, but in the years that followed, her eyes seemed to lose their color, and she never slept through the night. The only words she ever spoke of it were whispered to her sister. She told me I wasn't ready yet. Some claim that meeting Baba Yaga does not always mean death, but it is never without a price. A traveler might be allowed to leave only to find their shadow no longer matches their body, or that their reflection moves a heartbeat too late. Others carry strange marks on their skin, like the faint imprint of talons of the burn of unseen fire. There are also warnings, omens, said to mean Baba Yaga walks nearby. The forest grows unnatural quiet, as if every creature has hidden. A bird calls your name in a human voice. You see smoke in the trees, but it drifts sideways against the wind. You find a fence made of bones alone in the forest, the ground around it trampled by something far too large to be human. Are these merely the echoes of an old story embodied in our minds? Or are they footprints of something ancient, still pacing just beyond the reach of firelight? If the legends are true, then Baba Yaga does not need to seek her victims. She waits. The forest itself carries them to her door. To understand Baba Yaga is to step beyond the literal, past the hood, the bones, and the snapping teeth, into the shadows of the human mind and the oldest memories of civilization. She is not simply a witch, She is the forest personified, vast, beautiful, dangerous, and indifferent to human desire. She is the reminder that nature nurtures and devours, that the same ground that feeds the roots of an apple tree will one day claim your bones. In Slavic culture, she embodies the threshold, the space between life and death, safety and danger, childhood and adulthood. Her chicken-legged hood is not just a bizarre architectural curiosity, it is a guardian at the edge of the world we know. The hood turns its back until you prove yourself worthy, forcing you to ask for entry, a symbolic crossing into a place where rules are different, where the familiar no longer protects you. She is the ultimate test giver. In tales, her impossible tasks are more than cruelty. They are metaphors for the challenges of growth. Sorting poppy seeds from dirt is the work of patience. Waving flawless cloth teaches discipline. Fetching water from a deadly well requires courage and cunning. Those who succeed are not simply lucky, they are transformed. But Baba Yaga is also death made familiar. In a world where mortality was inescapable, she gave shape to the fear. Her fence of bones a visual truth, the forest is full of remains. Iron teeth a predator's inevitability. In some stories she devours her victims whole, not out of malice, but because consuming the dead is what the earth itself does. And yet she is not purely evil. In certain interpretation, Baba Yaga protects the balance. She punishes greed, arrogance, and those who disrespect the natural order. She aids the humble, the respectful, the clever. She is the wild justice of the world, untouched by human laws. In one sense, she is the Dark Mother, a figure present in all the stories across the cultures. She is nurturing and destroying, loving and cruel. She forces the hero or heroine to confront fear, to leave the safety of childhood illusions and to emerge stronger, or not at all. Woman in all Slavic society, Baba Yaga was a complex symbol. On one hand, she was the cautionary tale against becoming too wild or stepping outside the roles expected. On the other, she represented power outside the control of men. A woman who answered to no husband, no ruler, no god. She commanded life, death, and the in the between. In this way she embodied a kind of freedom most could only whisper about. Some folklorists argue that Baba Yaga roots may stretch back to pre-Christian goddess worship. She bears the marks of a triple goddess figure, maiden, mother, and crone, but condensed into a single overwhelming presence. The crone aspect dominates, but traces of the other two remain: the life giver, who offers aid, and the maiden's tricker spirit in her riddles and games. She is not a monster to be defeated, but a force to be faced. Centuries have passed since the first fireside tales of Baba Yaga. The world has changed, kingdoms have fallen. The forests she once haunted have been cut back, replaced by cities of concrete and glass, and yet she remains. In the age of film, books, and digital screen, Baba Yaga has found new forms. She has appeared as the twisted villain in children's storybooks, the wise old hermit in fantasy novels, the nightmare crone in horror films. Some versions soften her edges, turning her into a whimsical trickster. Others sharpen her cruelty, making her an embodiment of evil itself. But even in these reinventions, certain truths never change. The chicken-legged hood, the fence of bones, the iron teeth, and the impossible choice between her mercy and her hunger. In video games she becomes a boss to defeat. Her magic rendereth a burst of green fire and shadow. In modern novels she sometimes appears as a reluctant ally, guiding heroes through a realm that blurs life and death. Even blockbusters films have borrowed her name as shorthand for something relentless, unstoppable, a hunter you cannot escape. But folklore has a strange way of outliving its retellings. For every fictional Baba Yaga there are still those who whisper of the real one. Hunters in Siberia who claim to have seen cloud tracks in freshly fallen snow. Campers in Poland who swear they heard scraping above the tree line, though there was no wind. Travelers in Ukraine who wake in the night to the sound of something large circling their tent, pacing, turning. Some believe she has adopted, just as her stories have. If the old forests are gone, perhaps she walks the forgotten corners of the world. The abandoned towns, the shadowed edges of highways, the places where street lights flicker and go out. And in our hyper-connected world, the line between legend and reality blurs even more. An odd video appears online, a cabin swaying in the mist as if it's on tilts before the footage abruptly cuts out. A photograph circulates on forums. The charred remains of a shack surrounded by what appear to be sharpened poles, each topped with something small and round, skulls, some say, doll heads, others insist. Perhaps these are tricks of camera, perhaps they are hoaxes designed to stir fear. But then again, isn't that how her legend was always worked? She lives in the spaces between certainty and doubt, where the mind fills in what the eyes cannot quite see. In the end, it may not matter whether Baba Yaga is real, in the way we understand reality. What matters is that she exists, in the old woods, in the stories we pass down, and in the part of our minds that knows there are forces beyond our control. Because the moment you stop believing, you stop watching. And when you stop watching, well, that is when the forest grows quiet. That is when you smell smoke where there should be none. That is when you hear the soft thump, scrape, just behind you. So remember her. Remember the hood with its restless legs, the fence lined with silent schools, the woman with eyes like frozen rivers and teeth of iron. And when you next find yourself standing at the edge of the trees, staring into the dark and wondering what might stare back, because Baba Yaga walks still.